Got a bit of a problem with my S55 AMG. Something wrong with the gearbox. The car was driving perfectly normal. My everyday car, I drive it every day. It's problem free. This problem started happening 2 days ago. I drove the car in the morning, everything worked fine. But then I went to move the car after it was sitting for a few hours. When I put the car into reverse, it slammed into gear. I felt like the whole car was going to jump backwards, and then it does the same going to drive. So there's clearly some problem with the gearbox. Hopefully it's just a valve body. Hopefully I won't have to remove the gearbox and rebuild it. And this problem would randomly come and go when I put the car into reverse or drive. It would slam into gear, sometimes less, sometimes more. And sometimes it would work absolutely fine. You could drive the car for a few minutes, go into gear, no problem. Then about after 10 miles of driving the car in this condition, the gearbox does not want to shift into third gear, so when you're driving slowly around 20 miles per hour in comfort mode, so the car starts in second gear, when you accelerate it does not want to change into third until you hit about 3,000–4,000 RPM, and then when it does it's very jerky. It's like being kicked in the back when it changed into third gear, so definitely something wrong. We'll put the Diagnostic laptop on the car and see what codes it has. Diagnostic is connected to the car is running. As you can see, there's no fault codes, which is not good. I was hoping to see some codes which will make fixing the car much easier. As well as you go into event memory, there's nothing here as well. Just did the test for all the solenoid valves. It was successful, there's no problem with those. The car is slowly starting to warm up. Coolant is up to 40 degrees. I have to drive the car, see if it acts up again. In comfort mode for the gearbox, so we'll start in second gear. See how it changes into reverse. Went in perfectly, no jerk, smooth. Almost fully warmed up in drive comfort mode. Now I'll put the car in park and see how it engages reverse and drive. In park, now to reverse. Perfectly smooth. As well as drive, perfectly smooth. Not doing the problem I was doing 2 days ago. Drove the car some more, another few minutes. Fully at operating temperature. Now have to run it through the gears again. And drive back to park. I go to reverse. Perfectly smooth. Neutral. Drive. Everything's fine. Car's not acting up like it was before. Drove the car around some more, still cannot get the gearbox to act up. Still working perfectly, so we'll turn the car off, let it sit and restart it, see if the problem shows up. I have to restart, see if the gearbox problem comes up. To reverse. There. Whole car jerked a little bit. Neutral and drive. That was even worse. I wonder if the torque converter lockup is not working properly, or the torque converter is trying to lock up when the car is stationary, so we'll turn it off with the Diagnostic. Yeah, just turn off the torque converter lockup to see if it still shifts rough. Torque converter lockup is switched off. Reverse. Still clunk, neutral, drive. Made absolutely no differences. Definitely not the torque converter lockup, I'm pretty sure. It says the torque converter should not be locking up to the car stationary, otherwise there's a big serious problem with the gearbox. Now the gearbox is roughly engaged in reverse and drive. Let's see how the car drives, see if it's shifting properly or it doesn't want to shift like it did before. You can see the whole camera moving as the car slams into gear. It's in comfort mode, just like when I had the problem. Delayed, slightly clunky 2-3 shift there. Car into manual, see how it shifts. First gear manual. Second gear. Third gear. Shifted fine, no problem at all. Fourth. Shifting perfectly fine in manual mode. Sport mode as well. Don't mind the warnings, the car has lots of other issues with it at the moment, and related to the gearbox. Shifting fine in sport mode, now we'll go back to comfort. Shifting perfectly normally in comfort mode as well. Just pulled into the driveway, about to turn the car off. Going back and forth to park it straight in the driveway, and as I put it into drive, there's some sort of whining sound when I go forward, so I don't know if the camera will pick this up. In reverse now, going to drive, car jerks, and I go on the throttle. And now I won't do it on the camera. Quite sure about that. So there is obviously something very wrong with the gearbox. I'm really not sure if it's the gearbox itself or just the valve body, hopefully. Usually when the gearbox itself starts to fail, these problems don't just suddenly come up out of nowhere. Usually it starts slipping or harsh shifts start appearing more and more, and it's not like the car was running perfectly fine and then you turn the car off and restart it and you have this jerking shifting problem. If there was something mechanical in the gearbox like clutch packs and stuff, usually this problem would come slowly, not suddenly out of nowhere. So I'm really hoping it's just the valve body itself. Hopefully it's just a broken pressure regulator spring. At the very least, the valve body is going to have to come out of the gearbox, as well as the oil. Check the oil itself for any metal debris or broken metal pieces. If there's anything like this in the oil in the oil pan, then the whole gearbox has to be removed from the car. We'll have to take it all apart, see what's failed in it, and it will be fully rebuilt. I really don't want to remove the gearbox from the car at this moment and do a full rebuild. since I have other cars to fix. This is my main car. And if it is broken, the other cars will wait. I'll fix this car first. I should also say, when I first bought this car about 3 years ago, I did have problems with the gearbox. It would act as if it's slipping, and the torque converter would not lock up all the way or be very jerky in second gear, so I did go through the valve body for the gearbox, took it out, cleaned it, has a new conductor plate, has the Sonax O-ringed overlap shift sleeves, as well as the Sonax torque converter damper valve as well, and it also has the Transgo shift kit in it, new conductor plate, new 13-pin plug, so all that's new fluid obviously and filter. It has less than 10,000 miles on it after I did this work, so I really don't think it's the valve body itself or with the work I did to it. I did reuse all the springs to it, so hopefully one of those springs was broken or there was some dirt clogging something. You'll never know until I remove the valve body from the car and take it apart, see what's wrong with it. I did check the gearbox oil level as well. That was the first thing I did when this problem started coming up. I just checked it again with the car running fully warm. Special dipstick tool. The level is correct. This is what the fluid looks like. Very clean, does not smell burnt. Mind you, it only has about 7,000 miles on it. The 134F fluid these cars use does lose its red color quite quickly, so the fluid is red when it goes in. If you drive the car a few thousand miles and it loses its color, it becomes this tannish color, which is perfectly normal. The car is lifted up on some wood. I already have the underside plastic panel off, as well as I already drained the oil out of the gearbox. This is what the oil looks like. Overall, not too bad. Still got some of its red color to it. Maybe some tiny specks of clutch material in the bottom of the pan that I let to settle out. No metal pieces or anything in the oil yet. I have to remove the oil pan for the gearbox. A few days later now, I got the valve body removed from the gearbox. I want to take it apart and inspect it because of what I found. When I removed the oil pan, I found the oil filter laying in the bottom of it, so it had fallen off. And it could not have fallen off when I removed the oil pan because I pulled it straight down, not like at angle or anything, so it just came straight down and the oil filter was laying in the bottom of it, so this fell off when driving, so hopefully this was causing most of the problems. Since the oil filter is the oil pickup as well, the oil goes in right there, and if this falls off, then this can't suck oil in, and it's trying to suck oil in up here. If the oil level is around somewhere here, it's sucking air in, and that's causing various shifting problems. Hopefully this is the only problem. This oil filter came with the car when I bought it, so I don't know what brand it is. Could be a Chinese filter, that's why it fell off, because this O-ring here is very small and it's very hard like plastic, and it's completely flush to the side. Usually it comes out about half a millimeter, so it's tight. So it's tight in the gearbox, but clearly it isn't anymore now, so that's why it fell off, and this clip wasn't enough to hold it in. Since the car has been driven with the oil filter falling off, the oil has not been filtered. I don't know how long this has been. Hopefully it's the past 10 miles maybe less, hopefully. But I don't know, so I'll remove the valve body as well. I'm going to fully disassemble it and clean it and inspect it. Because if it's been run with dirty oil, there's a possibility that the dirt in the oil has clogged up some of the valves in the valve body, which could also cause shifting problems. So that has to all be taken apart, cleaned and inspected. Overall, the fluid itself was still in quite good condition. I didn't find anything bad in the bottom of the oil pan, no metal pieces or anything at all. There's a good possibility that all of these problems They've been caused by just the filter falling off. Now to disassemble, clean and inspect the valve body. I've had all this apart about 7,000 miles ago. I did the O-ringed Sonax overlap shift sleeves. It has the upgraded Sonax torque converter lockup damper valve. Has a transgo shift kit. Brand new conductor plate. I already used this. This is in good condition. I have video on my channel. We're doing this the first time, replacing the conductor plate, putting in all the new upgraded internal parts in the valve body on my channel from about 2 years ago, so if you want to see that, just look for it on my channel and you'll find it. Top part of the valve body is fully disassembled and cleaned. Everything is in very good condition, don't see anything wrong with it. Now to just oil the parts with some fresh fluid, reassemble it, and move on to the bottom piece of the valve body. Bottom half of the valve body is fully disassembled and cleaned. Everything looks good, no broken springs or anything. As well as the middle spacer plate has been cleaned as well. Now to reassemble it. Bottom half of the valve body is fully assembled. All of the steel and plastic check valve bolts are put in. Now it's ready for the spacer plate and for the top half to be bolted on. Very important to put the steel and rubber check valve bolts in the correct places. The steel ones goes here. And the rubber ones go here. There's also two screen filters. The one goes here, and the other one goes here, and as well as a 1/8 check valve, which goes right here, and then alignment pin right there. Valve body is fully reassembled and torqued. The torque specs for the small bolts on the side cover plates are 4 Newton meters, and for these bolts that hold the two halves of the valve body together are 8 Newton meters. The conductor plate is back on as well. Very important to put the screens back in for these two solenoids and to make sure they're clean and in good condition. Now to change all the O-rings for the solenoids. These two do not use any O-rings. It's these two and these two. We'll also replace that torque converter lockup solenoid. There's this one here, this is the old one. This is the new one. Around $70, not too expensive, original Mercedes part. The reason for replacing that torque converter lockup solenoid is when the gearbox is cold and you just set off, you can feel the torque converter locking up in second gear. So it could be smoother, so I will replace it. Mind you, it has around 190,000 miles on it, so this wasn't expensive, so I put the new one in. Hopefully that will be smoother. Here's a comparison of the oil filters. This is the original. I don't know what brand this is. It's like some knockoff Chinese filter. It's the one that I'm putting in. Main filter. Part number right there. There's one filter right there. This one doesn't say anything on it anyway. You should look carefully at the O-rings on the filters. The main filter, which is on the right, the O-ring itself is much fatter than the filter that came out from the gearbox. You can see the O-ring is much thinner and it's completely flush with the plastic. It's including about half a millimeter, maybe more, so it's still good. much fatter. Now before I put the valve body in, I'll show you how the oil filter goes into the gearbox. This is the old one that fell out. It goes through the valve body. It is not held into the valve body at all. It just goes into the gearbox itself. You can see how loose it is. It's in all the way. And it does not stay in the hole at all. It just falls off. So it just fell off when driving. Hopefully this was causing all the shifting problems. Valve body is in, a new filter. Torque to spec, which is 8 Newton meters. Now to put on the oil pan. When putting in the valve body, very important to line all the shift linkage properly. Oil pan and magnet are cleaned, and gasket, as well as new drain plug and crush washer. The old drain plug was damaged. The car is fully put back together. Just drove the car. The problem is not fixed. It's still slamming into gear occasionally. At first when I drove the car, it drove much smoother than before as the fresh fluid in the new torque converter lock-up solenoid. Then I parked the car, let it idle for about 5 minutes, and parked fully warmed up. Then go to put it to reverse and drive, it's slamming into gear again. So the oil filter having fallen off clearly was not the problem. I continued test driving the car with the Diagnostic attached. And the car still wasn't giving any codes or recorded events. Everything looked normal, but as I was shifting it from park to reverse to drive as it's slamming into gear, I decided the moment I put the car in drive and it slams into drive, I'm going to drive away immediately. And as I did so, immediately the car is not changing into third gear from second since I'm driving it in comfort mode, so it does not want to do a 2-3 shift. It's like holding RPM. So I put the car into manual mode and then shifted it with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. It was delayed and doesn't really want to shift into third gear. It's kind of clunky. Then it shifted into fourth gear and it got immediately stuck in fourth gear and went into limp mode. I drove the car back and there's a code on the Diagnostic. The code is P2200, which is a fault code for speed sensor 2 and the conductor plate in the gearbox. So now I have to lift the car back up again and take the valve body back out to replace the conductor plate. I really wasn't expecting that conductor plate to go bad since it only has 7,000 miles on it, and I replaced it last time I had the gearbox apart. That is the main reason why I reused it. If the conductor plate was a known condition or had higher mileage, I would have replaced it anyway in the first place. So I have the work to do all over again. In the freezing cold, it's about 1 or 2 degrees, slightly above freezing. How lovely. The car is lifted back up. The gearbox is fully disassembled as much as it needs to be. Conductor plate is off. Here's a better view of the defective conductor plate. This is the bad speed sensor. Now this conductor plate was provided to me with the car from the car's previous owner. So I do not know what brand it is, but it was brand new and it looked good quality parts at the time, so when I did the gearbox service I used it, considering the original conductor plate in the car had around 180,000 miles on it. But if you look here, there's almost no part numbers on it at all. Just a plastic identification number, the date codes, which is March of 2018. And there's no Mercedes parts numbers on it or anything at all. Now this is the new connector plate from FCP Euro. The manufacturer date on it is 6th month of 2019, and as you can tell there's Mercedes part numbers right here on it. Most likely this had Mercedes-Benz written right here, but it's been machined off. And this is being sold as an aftermarket part, but from what I can tell this is the OEM original quality part, so this is going to go in. So looking at this conductor plate, the bad one, this is why I think this is a Chinese copy of one, because there's no Mercedes part numbers on it or anything at all. And that probably explains why it failed after about 7,000 miles. I just noticed on the new conductor plate, on the bottom of the sensors, it says Continental right there, so this is most likely made by Continental for Mercedes-Benz. The car is fully put back together. Picture of the car, everything seems to be good. I think it's fixed. Fully warmed up, our level is set correctly. Tester of the car is fully warmed up. Seems to be driving perfectly like it was before, no problems at all. Had a diagnostic hooked up the whole time. No codes, as well as no recorded events. Goes into gear very smoothly. You can't even feel the car going into gear right now. You can only tell the RPM dropping to drive. Perfectly smooth. So it seems the car is fixed. I gave the code for the number 2 speed sensor, which I fixed that with the new conductor plate. Now the car is running and driving good, so before I end this video I'll do an update on the end after I've driven the car some proper miles, see if it's acting up again or it's fixed. So here's the car about 1,000 miles later. There's the mileage right there. The gearbox works perfectly. The car drives even better than it did before with the fresh fluid and the new torque converter lock-up solenoid. I'll put the diagnostic on the car again. No codes, no recorded events. Everything is fine. The car is fixed. What you can learn from this video is, if you have parts of unknown quality and they're going in a critical application, it is best not to use them. Go buy high quality parts so they don't fail, so don't have problem later on like I did with this Chinese gearbox conductor plate. This is all I have to say for this video. The car is all fixed. Hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching.